and try to figure out what happened.
So you had 2 conversations at this point with the defendant while you were still home.
Yes.
Was there any further phone calls that you had before you did something?
I'm not sure if I know I went downstairs to make coffee because my plan was to go with my husband. I said, come on, let's just go over to Tom Beatty's. Let's see. Maybe John's there. He passed it on the couch. I'm not sure if Karen called me again or not. It's a little foggy because there was so many calls and everything.
Okay. And so that morning when you're receiving calls, did something happen?
Karen showed up at my house.
How did you know Karen showed up at your house?
I could hear her screaming out front.
And about what time is this?
Approximately 5:20, 5:30. I can't be sure.
Were you worried for John at this point?
Not particularly, no.
Were you screaming?
No.
Now at this point, at this moment when you hear her outside of your house yelling, early morning hours, did you know a person by the name of Kerry Roberts?
I knew of her. I'd met her once.
Were you friends with her at that time?
No.
Had you socialized with her at that time?
No.
Had you ever seen her before with John?
Once.
Tell me about that.
Years earlier, as I said earlier, I used to take Kaylee on Friday nights, and Kerry was the one who would take Patrick on Friday night. So we would each have the kids. And to thank us, one day John told us how he got a discount at Reebok and to get our kids' shoe sizes, and he was going to buy us all sneakers, just as a way to say thank you for helping. So we all went to the store together, and then John took Kerry and myself to the hillside for lunch.
How many years before this moment was that?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think that's when my daughter was in kindergarten or first grade, and at this point she was in 8th grade. So like 7 years.
Had you ever spent any other time with Kerry Roberts before this morning?
No.
Were you friends at that point?
No.
How would you consider your relationship with Miss Roberts on that morning when Miss Reed arrived to your home?
I had met her once, and that was the extent of it. I wouldn't say I knew her at all, beyond that one time I went out with her.
Okay, I want you to take us back now to when you first hear the defendant in your driveway yelling. When you hear that, do you hear any words, or is it general yelling?
So I hear yelling. So I was downstairs making coffee. I go to my front door and I open it, and she's screaming, Jen, Jen. She's screaming that 3 times, and then she was saying, we have to go to Fairview. A lot of the, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? She was on repeat.
What did you do?
My husband came running down the hall and was like, tell her to shut up. She's going to wake up the neighbors. And then I said, I'm just going to go with her. I'm going to go look for John. And then he yelled down saying something like, you can't be driving around in this weather, with a broken taillight.
When you saw the defendant at your front door, had the weather changed overnight?
Yes.
Was it different?
Yes, now the snow had intensified. It was almost like, it was dark outside, but it was like whiteout conditions.
How dark?
Dark. It was dark. It was like 5:30 in the morning.
What was the visibility like?
Not good.
After you meet the defendant at your door, do you let her in, or does she stay outside?
I'm not sure if I just grabbed my coffee and ran out.
Where did you go?
Or whether she came in. So we went down my walkway. She was just kind of running all around. The driver's door was open, so I told her I was going to drive because I thought she was too hysterical to drive. In the meantime, all of a sudden there was a car at the end of my street, and there was a plow behind it.
The car that came to the end of your street, do you know where it went?
I meant the end of my driveway, I'm sorry.
When you say at the end of your driveway, did it pull into your driveway?
No, it just kind of stopped right at the base of my driveway.
Okay. How far behind your car was that car?
Not far, because not too far.
Okay. Did you know who was in that car?
No.
Did you learn who was in that car?
Yes,
How did you learn who was in the car?
because I said, "Who is that?" And
Did you ask the defendant, or did you walk
I
up?
asked the defendant, and she told me it was Kerry Roberts.
Did you meet Kerry Roberts face-to-face in your driveway that morning?
Yes, I wouldn't say we met. It was more of a, the plow was coming, so then she was having to like move down the street, and then either Karen called her or she called Karen, but they were on the phone, Karen's phone over the car, so they started talking.
Did you get into the defendant's car?
Yes, we did. I got in the car with Miss Reed.
When you got in the car, you were in the driver's seat. Was Miss Reed in the passenger front?
Yes,
You said there was an open call. Is this something you could hear on a speaker?
yes,
At that point, had you had a chance to go and look at the taillight of that car?
no,
Did you have any interest in the taillight at that point?
no.
There was an open call between who?
Karen and Kerry Roberts.
Can you describe what you heard in that call?
Karen was saying that she wanted to go to Fairview, and Kerry Roberts was instructing her that no, we weren't going to be going to Fairview, and she kept saying, "We got to go to your sister's house," and Kerry Roberts said, "No, we're not going to be driving around in this weather in two cars. Let's go back to John's. Let's go to Meadows. Let's go see if he's there." That was kind of the conversation, and then Karen was doing a lot of screaming, and Kerry was kind of yelling back at her to shut up.
Who was taking charge of the situation that morning?
Kerry Roberts.
Were you in charge of it?
No.
Did you weigh in or make any decisions on where you were going to go next, or were you just a listener?
I just listened. Kerry said that Kerry's kind of a take-charge person. She said, "We're going to Meadows." So I said, okay. I drove to Meadows.
Now, at this point, you didn't know Kerry Roberts other
No.
than that meeting,
Yes, correct.
and you agreed to follow her?
Yes.
So tell us what happens. Take us through the drive.
She might have followed me. I'm not sure, but we drove back to Meadows, pulled into the driveway.
So you knew where Meadows was. You had been there many times for the kids.
Yes.
You think Miss Roberts may have followed you?
Yes.
What was the weather conditions as you were driving?
They were awful. It was. I was driving very slow, cautiously. It was dark. It was hard to see. It was that type where the snow is like coming at your window.
How long of a ride was it from your home to John's home?
Approximately 5-6 minutes.
Was there any other phone calls while you were in the car with Miss Roberts, or did the phone calls end?
I believe that was it.
Can you describe the defendant's demeanor on the trip from your house to John's house?
She was just screaming, yelling things. It was almost like everything she said 3 times. And she just went from one thing to the next. She was quite hysterical.
Do you remember what she was yelling about?
About going to Fairview, asking, could she have hit him? Did I hit him?
How many times did she raise the question, did I hit him, could have I hit him?
A good amount.
Did you ever speak to her about that?
No.
At some point, did you finally get to John's home?
Yes,
When you got to John's home, who pulled in the driveway first?
I did.
Where did you pull in respect to the driveway?
I just pulled straight in next to the garage.
Did you see where Miss Roberts went?
I believe she pulled in behind me.
After you pulled into Meadows, John's home, and you stopped, what happened next?
We go into John's house.
When you went into John's house, did you all go in the same way?
Yes, we went through the garage.
And before going into John's home, did you do anything?
Before entering into the house,
Yes.
I took off my shoes.
You took off your shoes?
Yes,
Why did you do that?
because you always had to take your shoes off at John's. He didn't want you to track. He would have yelled at me for tracking snow in his house.
Did you see if Kerry took her shoes off or not?
I believe she did.
Did you see whether the defendant took her shoes off or not?
She just walked right in
How would you remember that?
because I thought it was strange.
What was your purpose when you went into the house? What was the number one thing that you were worried about?
We were looking for John.
Anything else on your mind when you went into his house?
Also, I knew Kaylee was there.
Now, at this point, did you have a close relationship with Kaylee?
Yes.
Do you still?
Yes.
What did you do when you went in the house? Where did you go?
I walked through the kitchen, and then I kind of peeked into the TV room. I walked through the dining room, and then before I went up the stairs, I kind of peeked into a living room. I went up to the top of the stairs. I peeked into John's room, and then I went into Kaylee's room.
Did you ever see John?
No,
Why did you go to Kaylee's room?
because I wanted to go check on Kaylee.
Did you have a chance to speak to her?
I did, yes.
Okay. What was her demeanor at that point?
She was very, she was in the bed. She was holding on to her phone. She was terrified.
Was she screaming?
No.
Did you provide her any comfort?
Yes. I told her that I was going to go out. I told Kaylee that I was going to go out with them and I was going to find John. And I promised her that everything would be okay.
At some point, you left Kaylee?
Yes.
Where did you go?
I went back downstairs and then we went out to look for John.
Before you left John's house that morning, did the defendant show you anything?
Yes. When we were out in the driveway, I had thought it was when we went in, but I think it might have been when we came out. But regardless, at one point when we were in the driveway at Meadows, Karen showed myself and Kerry Roberts the cracked taillight.
Did you or Miss Roberts get close to the taillight at that point?
Yes, we walked over and the taillight was missing pieces.
Did Miss Roberts have any comment about it?
Yes, Miss Rob.
So she had a comment. Next question.
What was Miss Roberts' demeanor at that point?
She was frustrated with Karen. Had said that had said that Karen basically was telling her to shut up. You were so drunk, you could have hit anything last night. And then Kerry, I remember just thinking, all right, let's go. And I remember Kerry thinking, oh,
Well,
someone's
let me
going
not
to
ask
get.
you what Kerry-
Oh, sorry.
We don't want to think what somebody thought.
Okay.
I want to know what you heard and what you saw. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. At some point when you were looking at the taillight with missing pieces with the defendant and Miss Roberts, did you see Miss Roberts point anything out?
Yes.
Share that with us.
She pointed a piece that was sticking out and was concerned that someone was going to catch their coat or something on it.
And during that time when the defendant is showing you the taillight with missing pieces, was she saying anything about it?
No, I don't. Not that I can recall right now.
You mentioned at some point she was saying, did I or could I have hit him after you left John's house? Was that in the car or before you got in the car?
I know for a fact it was definitely in the car, was one of the times, yes.
Now, Miss Roberts' car is parked behind the defendant's car in John's driveway.
Yes,
Was there a decision made to take one or two cars?
one car.
What was the plan?
The plan was to get into Carrie's car and to go and look for John. I wanted to go thinking, let's go to Tom Beatty's, but Miss Reed was pretty adamant that we go to Fairview first.
You said that at times there was some arguing or bickering, or Miss Roberts was raising her voice to the defendant.
Yes.
Who made the decision to go to Fairview?
Ultimately, Carrie said, all right, we'll go there, almost like to shut her up.
When you got in the car, where was everybody? When you got into Kerry Roberts' car, where
Yes.
was everybody sitting?
Carrie was driving. I was in the front and passenger. Karen was in the back, in the middle, kind of peeking her head through.